Welcome everyone to today's episode of the She Shakes the World interview series. And I have a very bubbly, lovely, high vibe energy lady here with you today, Sarah Pittendrigh. She is based in Northumberland, and I'm going to let her tell you exactly where that is. But she's got an amazing story to share with you, something that you really need to listen into, a massive breakthrough that she went through, that she has really learned and grown from, that she's going to share with you today. And Sarah, I would love for you to introduce yourself, tell the world who you are, how you shake the world, and let us just get to know you and your energy.
Well, good morning, Rachel, and it's an absolute joy to be with you this morning.
Thanks.
So, yes, I'm Sarah Pittendrigh, and what a surname. I apologise for it. It's a nightmare for anyone to have to try and introduce, so you've done incredibly well there. So yes, Rachel, I do. I live in Northumberland, which is in the northeast of England. I live rurally on a hilltop, not near to very much, really, surrounded by horses, dogs, sheep, hens. It's a very open space, which is a wonderful gift for a busy entrepreneur like me. So at home, I am mum, my most important role, to William. He's 23.
Wow.
That's the most important job I've ever had. I'm married to Stuart, and as I say, we live in rural Northumberland, and my son is a professional equestrian. So he produces sports horses, competition horses. So when I'm not at work, I'm a full-time groom, traveling the circuit with William, from up and down the country, from as far north to as far south, length and breadth, if he's either eventing or showing. So in my business life, I am a franchisor. We've got and founder of a company called Simply Bows and Chair Covers. So we've got 10 offices around the UK, and we style and design the most beautiful weddings and events. We provide specialist event linen, everything from chair decor to table linen for, as I say, for special events. In addition to that, my husband and I developed his family farm. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, he'd lost both of his parents to cancer within a short succession of each other. They farmed together. He lost the love of farming and himself, really. Mm. So to breathe life back into the place, we developed the family farm, ultimately sold 10 houses. We developed 8 from the beautiful traditional stone buildings and sold it to young families. Well, there were young professionals who are now have got young families, and they've just brought so much life back into the farm. It's exactly what we wanted. Yeah. And when the pandemic came, and we just finished this mammoth property project, which was very stressful, we lost, it spent a huge amount of money on it, and it was a risk of would we lose it or would it work? Luckily it worked. And I came out of it absolutely shattered, exhausted. I'd had 2 diagnoses of malignant melanoma, skin cancer, in 2014 and 15. And we'll come to my backstory, I'm sure, later on in the interview. And with all of it, I was just burnt out, and I was heading towards 50, and thinking, I've got more years behind me now than in front of me. Mm. What on earth do I want? I'm shattered. All I've ever done is work. And I can't remember when I last felt happy or was actually doing something for me.
Wow.
And at that point, the pandemic came and locked us all in our homes.
It did.
And it left me with me to deal with. Yeah. And it was quite horrifying. It was quite horrifying, Rachel. And I had to work out what it was I wanted and why I felt how I felt, and what was it that was really holding me back from not being a facilitator, but for actually delivering my own purpose.
Wow, what amazing questions that you faced.
Amazing
How
questions.
deal with that?
And, recognize that I'd been facilitating
Mm.
other people to realize and deliver their dreams. And don't get me wrong, I've been very, very happy to do that. That at that time was my purpose. But then I realized that my purpose needed to shift as I headed towards 50. And I had to start focusing on me before my time ran out and what I wanted out of life. And what I did was I used a methodology that I didn't realize was a methodology. It was just a process I went through to build businesses, to carry out feasibility studies on businesses and so forth. And I was just basically working through this methodology on myself, asking the difficult questions, having to dig deep, having to remove layers, getting to the root cause of why I felt like I felt, and why I felt that I had to put everybody's needs before my own, and why I would never put myself on my to-do list. Why was I running away from myself? And that is what I did. And then
all on your own. You did that all
yes, all on my own. Yeah, absolutely. Did the complete breakthrough myself. And it was very emotional. It was a real roller coaster. And we'll touch on my book later, but it'll all be in there, the whole nitty gritty of it.
Yes.
And then once I'd sort of dealt with myself, we met through LinkedIn.
We did.
And I was on LinkedIn, and with the global pandemic affecting people within their businesses, pivoting, trying to diversify, just trying anything to make their businesses succeed and to survive. They were emotionally drained, frightened, and so much of their posts was resonating with me. And I thought, I can really help these people. I've been there, I've done this, I've felt what they're going through. And I think my strategy would help them take a step back and actually take their time and not panic and make knee-jerk reactions that could be costly and that they might regret when they come out the other end of this. And I decided to create a coaching and mentoring program. I'd done a lot of mentoring in the past, but never in a formal way, And I thought, well, what can I call this? And I remember all I ever used to say to myself in the past was, I can't do this. I can't do this. But yes, you can. You can. Come on, you can. So I decided to call it the I Can method. And we have Ignite, Clarify, Action, and Nurture. And they're the 4 modules of the program. And I launched it in the middle of the pandemic. I had 15 CEOs and business owners within the first launch, which was within the first 18 months of the program, working with me. I've got phenomenal testimonials from them, which just makes my heart sing to have helped them so much, and them to have helped me too, because I learn as much from my clients.
Absolutely.
As I hope they learn from me. Yeah. And I just feel so fulfilled. I've just absolutely found my purpose. I just love what I do.
I can see it. And what is it that you found that they were struggling with? So the women that have come into your coaching program, where were they struggling, and how did you help them overcome what they were struggling with? If someone's in a similar position to like you were then during that pandemic, sort of looking at themselves, and they've not managed to go through that themselves and get to the root and clear what might be holding them back, could you share just briefly how you've helped some ladies to overcome themselves?
Yes, I think what's happened is with many of my clients, a huge amount of their self-limiting beliefs, the root stems from their childhood.
Absolutely.
And it really has come out in the coaching. And these clients are hugely successful business women and men. Originally, I thought it would just be women who would want to come on my program, but it's astounding that, and I'm not saying that in a way that I'm, just championing women and not thinking men have these problems, whatever. That's not what I'm saying. It's just, I always think that women want to speak to women and men would probably want to speak to men. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of what I was thinking. But it's absolutely wonderful that these men are coming forward and we're having some wonderful conversations, and they're opening up and feeling comfortable with what I'm saying, and sort of offering. So what happens is, historically with the clients I've had, they've built hugely successful businesses, and if I'm honest, I felt with many of them that they felt they had something to prove.
Okay.
And you know, so and that comes to a lack of self-confidence. Yeah. So what they've done is they've just pushed on, and enough's never been enough. So they've hit 6 figures in the business, and they thought that would give them fulfillment and happiness, and it hasn't. So they thought, well, it wasn't 6 figures, so I'm going to drive myself into the ground and I'm going to go for 7 figures. And they build these hugely successful businesses. They have no time for themselves. They're juggling their family life. They're juggling. They don't see their friends. They don't have anyone to talk to because it doesn't resonate with many of their friends, because they're building these big businesses. Not many people understand the complexities that come with it, and the pressure and the expectation. They're juggling clients. They're juggling their team. They're juggling their family. May have children. And it becomes overwhelming.
Yeah.
And they become exhausted.
Yes.
And they forget what their why was when they originally set up the business. And maybe the why at that time, now they're at the other end of it, isn't the why at all. And what we have to work through is, what is it that you want? What is it that you really want? If it's not what you've got, why are you doing what you do? And we've got to understand that. How do you feel? How do you feel today? Be honest. When did you last feel happy? What did happy feel like? Yeah. And we work backwards, right the way back, and try to understand what on earth is going on today to make them, many of them, I think I've only had one client who sat in front of me and not cried when we first met. You know, that emotional release that they have from staying strong for so long, and to be able to share and show their vulnerability. As I say, it's not easy. And
as well, you've got you at that level are carrying so many people, and so many people are looking up to you, and you who can you show that vulnerability to? And I think to let all of that out and meet someone like you who gives them that permission to be themselves is huge.
And the be themselves is the thing they've forgotten.
Yes.
They've forgotten how to be themselves, because they've worn so many hats that themselves is at the bottom of the to-do list. And I want them to get back onto the top of the to-do list.
Yes.
And like you say, who do they turn to? You can't talk to your team because you show an area of weakness. That's going to send ripples through your team of, this ain't a stable ship. I'm nervous. The captain's anxious. We need to be anxious.
Yes.
So you can't tell your team. And you don't want to put fear and insecurity into your children and your family. So no matter how you feel, if you want to cry, you've got to cry behind closed doors.
Yeah.
You know, so you can come back out with a smiley face, and everything's fine, and you're holding it in. You know, you know where I'm coming from. And you might have elderly parents when you get to our age, and you don't want to worry them. That's the last thing you want to do. And your friends may not be in this position, and you don't want to bore them with the detail because you don't want to compromise your friendship. So you don't tell them either. So who do you talk to? My poor clients had no one to talk to. And I had, you know, I resonate with that as a businesswoman and an entrepreneur. Yeah. And I wanted to create that space. Yes. And that's what I've done.
Yeah, and it's amazing that you've done that. Absolutely incredible that you've done that. And then it's so true. I remember it was more when I was turning 40, where I was in that place of, if I don't focus on myself and put myself first, then actually I'm doing my entire family, my life, my business a massive disservice, because I can't give. I've got nothing to give. I'm empty. And actually, I've got to fill myself up, make sure that I'm taking time for myself, getting what I need. Because once I did that, that's when my life changed. And I think, I'm sure you found it's been the same for you and your clients.
Absolutely, because you need energy.
Yes.
You need energy, because energy creates motivation, it creates passion, it creates excitement.
Yeah.
And when you're drained of energy, you just can't do it.
Right.
And so and that is nurture on my mentoring program, module 4.
Yes.
It's all about, you've got to nurture yourself.
Yes.
And you've got to nurture your goal. Because if you don't, you'll not push them over the line, because A, you won't have the energy, and B, if you haven't got the energy, it ain't going to happen.
No. Wow, incredible. Sarah, I know there's another part of your story that we know we need to talk about in this interview, and and I'm going to just let you dive into it, because I know it's a huge part of your story. It's a huge part of why you are who you are now, and why you're doing what you're doing. So please share with everyone what happened to you earlier in your life to make you who you are now, and this incredible human being, and doing what you're actually doing in the world and with the women. And I know you're part of the you're an ambassador for the Princess Trust as well. Just tell us, if you're happy to share that part of your story, where there's the breakthrough that you've had, and because I know many need to hear this.
Yes, absolutely. Well, life has its ups and downs, and I'm a big believer that there is no such word as failure. It either works out or we learn.
Yeah.
And in 2008, my business partners and I lost a business. We had a large corporate event company that we lost in 2008. We know 2008 was a horrendous year. Yeah. And the recession and so forth. And also we'd had a contract with a big client that unfortunately didn't come to fruition. We'd invested heavily in it and given personal guarantees into the borrowing. And as a result of that, when the business closed, I became a bankrupt single mum on income support, and my house was repossessed within the bankruptcy. So at that point, I'd never been the most confident person. I'd always carried, from being a tiny child, throughout self-limiting beliefs. Never would have believed that I would be strong enough or good enough, if you like, to have ever owned my own business, albeit it was always a dream. So in 2008, when I'd lost everything, and I was very anxious, suffering from panic attacks, bordering on agoraphobia through the shame and embarrassment of losing the business. I was on rock bottom, and then one day a gentleman from the bank appeared in my garden, because with the way the recession of 2008 was, and houses were being repossessed here, there, and everywhere, it was a dreadful time for everyone. There seemed to be no hurry to actually take my home from me, as in physically remove me from it. So I was in it for a long time, and before anybody appeared to do something, so at least a couple of months. And then a gentleman came through the gate and started taking photos of my house, and I saw him from the sitting room, and I shouted out the window to ask him what he was doing, and he said, "Oh, I'm here from the bank, we're taking photographs, I need to come and value it for the auction." And at that point, my heart just absolutely broke into a million pieces, because I thought, we've got a beautiful home, and it's a lovely cottage in a lovely place opposite my mum and dad. It couldn't be more perfect. And my little boy was only 9, and it was his home, and it was our safe space. And to lose that for him I just felt, I'd really let him down. And I had to put my self-limiting beliefs and all of the feelings that I had and all of the worries and the anxiety behind me. And I knew at that point I had to put a stake in the ground and say, I'm going to change my life. And I'm going to change my life for him. I've got to make this happen So somehow or another, I can't allow this house to be taken off us.
Okay.
Now, bearing in mind, I'm on income support at this point. I've got no money to set up a business or anything like that. But I did have a laptop still had a computer at home. And anyway, the problem I had was getting outside and getting back out into the into the real world because of my anxiety.
Of course.
So I decided that one of the things I needed to do was to have a dog. I needed a dog to give me a purpose, to have to go outside, to have to walk it, to have to care for it, look after it. So I'll not talk too long about this, but I got a puppy anyway. I got a lurcher puppy, named him Sam. And my mum and I would walk with Sam. She would come with me and we would walk Sam. And walking and talking in the countryside helped me to think clearly, to get some space in my head, to slow down the whirring thoughts. And talking to somebody else really brought comfort, and the brainstorming allowed me to be creative and feel inspired. And I identified a gap in the market after talking to Mum about the poor quality of service my brother had for linen for his wedding.
Yes.
And then I linked that to some of the poor service we'd had in the events. And I thought, do you know what, Mum? There's a gap in the market here to create a business that delivers high-end but affordable, beautiful chair deco and table linen. If clients can dream it, we'll design it. We'll be fully accountable. We'll fully fit everything. And we'll work with the venues, because I knew they had a problem having to fit this linen that was just dumped on the doorstep. We'll fit it all for the venue. We'll take away all the hassle. And anyway, I felt so inspired by this. I went back to the dining room table and started to type out a business plan. I knew I didn't have the money, but I just thought, look, if nothing else, I feel good about thinking about this.
Yes.
Put it into a business plan. It gave me a purpose, and purpose is so important.
Absolutely.
You know, it's so important to have a purpose. It gave me purpose. I got this business plan done. I did loads of research when William was in bed, worked through the night, spoke to people in different countries, America, all over the place, China, looking at sourcing fabrics and things. And it looked like it was a very viable proposition. I had no bank account because I was bankrupt. I had to go back out onto the streets to talk to the high street banks. None of them would support a single mum on income support, even though she had a relatively good business plan. She didn't have a good track record being bankrupt. And that was it. I was struggling until one day in my address book, it just jumped out at me like it was meant to, a contact for a government grant for small businesses called Business Link. And I called them. They invited me in and presented the plan, lots of tears, told them my story. And 2 weeks later, I was offered a grant to get my business started. Didn't have a bank account to put the grant into.
Oh, wow.
Really panicked because I couldn't start a business without a bank account.
Yes.
Last resort, type into Google, how do you get a bank account when you're bankrupt? And amazingly, it came out that the Co-op Bank do a cash minder account with a debit card. So you can't have an overdraft or anything like that, which is absolutely fine. Just somewhere to deposit money, somewhere to have a card that you can, have a Visa that you can buy stuff over online. People can lodge money, and they offered me a bank account. So at this point, I've got a bank account. I've got a small grant to get me started. I've got a great business idea. And from that moment on, I had the start of a business, and it's become multi-award winning, Simply Bows and Chair Covers. And I saved my home. I managed to reclaim my home back.
I think that's such an inspiring and incredible. I'm uplifted just listening to your story. And I know when we were speaking earlier and you said to me, if I hadn't lost everything, I would never be put in a position to overcome my fears.
That's right. And this is what I think. This is why I'm so passionate about delivering the I Can method, because I believe we've all got it in us. It's just we don't know how to tap into it. So all the time I was saying, I'm not, I'll never set up my own business. Oh, I'd love to have my own business, or I'd love to do this, or I'd love to do that. But I just believed I couldn't for whatever reason of that self-limiting belief.
Yes.
But when the chips were down, I did.
Yes.
And what I'm trying to say to everyone is, on my coaching program, is you too can realize your purpose, but we've got to tap into your confidence.
Yes.
And I've got to help you identify that confidence is what's holding you back, because you might not even realize that. And so we tap into the confidence first of all, and identify and agree, yeah, I actually do have a confidence problem, which is stopping me going for either the ambitious goal or just being happy, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Not everybody wants an ambitious goal. It's not all about 7 figures. It's not about ambition always. Sometimes it's just about living a really nice life and being comfortable within the skin we're in. And that's more valuable than anything.
Yeah, money can't buy you the happiness, can it? People think
it buy you inner peace. It can. I've banked it all and I still wasn't happy. No. I've been there. I've done it. And what I'm saying is, right, okay, so great. We now know that you weren't confident, you weren't feeling confident, and we know what you want to do. Now we've got to find out what's stopping you. So we work all the way backwards, and it might take them back to when they were small children. And then we identify that. And at that point, it's the light bulb moment, because then they realize there's actually nothing wrong with them. It's just they're still looking at whatever that was through the eyes of a child. Yes. And what I have to say to them is, no, now look at it through the eyes of an adult. Yes. You've learned a lot since then. You've come a long way. Look how far you've come. Look at what you've achieved. You're not that small person anymore who had to feel like that. You're an adult now, and you've got so much more experience. And you can be and do whatever you want to do. You just might need to do some work, and it might be uncomfortable, but you ain't going to get anywhere unless you step outside of your comfort zone. We do the work, and then we create a strategy. We create a plan that's going to move them comfortably forward without feeling that overwhelm. Yes. And instead of thinking that goals, I've got to work towards that goal, what we do is we think about, we're going to bring the goal to us. That's going to come to us. We're not going to go pushing ahead. That's rolling towards us. Every time we make a step forward, that goal is rolling towards us.
Yes, because then it doesn't feel like striving or achieving or hard work. And presumably part of that is also enjoying and finding that joy in that peace on the way to having that goal come to us as well.
Absolutely. And acknowledging every win. No matter how small it is, it's a win. And you don't have to make huge leaps and bounds towards whatever your aspiration and your goal is. You just got to keep moving forward.
Yes. Oh, Sarah, I know I could talk to you for hours because you've got so much wisdom to share. And I would just love you to share how people can, so if they want to hear more from you, I know you've got a podcast coming out and I know you've got a book coming out. Just tell us a little bit about that, because I'm sure there'll be many who want to listen to this or maybe read your book. And so just tell us a little about that.
Well, everything you want to know about me is on my website. Yeah, if you want to know about me, and if you want to chat to me, then, I offer discovery calls. Yeah. So if anyone's sitting there thinking, oh, do you know what? I just really could do with a chat and to see if, whatever, if you might be able to advise or support me with, and then send me a message through my website. We can arrange a call. Formidable Over 40, the podcast will launch in August. I've got a phenomenal lineup of guests. We're kicking off with Andrew McLean and Nicholas Feeney from This Girl Is on Fire. And obviously you would know Andrea from the Loose Women days and all of her other TV appearances, and she's an author. Supported by Nick, who is also launching This Guy Is on Fire, which is very exciting for them. And then my second guest will be Eleanor Mills, and Eleanor, a former editor of the Sunday Times and the Sunday Times magazine. She's co-writing my book with me, which is so exciting. Yeah. So they're my two startup guests, and then keep your ears to the ground because there's some phenomenal guests to come on behind them. And the book, as I say, we're hoping to have that launched in the late autumn, early winter, where I'll be doing 2 book launches, one in London and one in Newcastle at the Sherrill Centre for the Princess Trust, because I want to give create 2 events, book launches, where the proceeds will go to the Prince's Trust, Women Supporting Women, of the charity, obviously, that you said earlier, of which I'm an ambassador for.
Yes, amazing. Wow, I'm excited to listen to the podcast for sure, and to hear about the book. And I have one final question for you, Sarah. So one final question is, so why do you think it is so important that this is a She Shakes the World podcast? So why is it you think that we do rise and we do shake the world, and that we do overcome these fears and we find our purpose? Why do you think it's so important that we do that?
Because we deserve it. No other reason. We deserve it. I've had cancer twice. I've been diagnosed with malignant melanoma twice. And if I hadn't had my first operation, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation now. Yeah. And my son wouldn't have his mum. Yeah. And we only get one chance to shake this world. One chance. Yeah. So put your purpose ahead of your fear and give it all you've got.
Wow, deep breath. What a way to end this podcast, Sarah. Thank you so much. I know this is going to have resonated with so many people. So thank you for sharing your energy. Thank you for sharing your time. And yeah, I really enjoyed our time together. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Sarah.